First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers who invited me to be the chairman of the session. We're running out of time, so I'd like to make it brief. I'm going to congratulate Dr. Anand about the first paper regarding ICU management of acute bronchial asthma. Unless really you work in an ICU environment, really it is very hard to conceptualize how you handle the acute respiratory failure in acute bronchial asthma in ICU. So whatever we read and try to learn through books becomes a theory if you really don't work in an ICU environment. There are a few rules that I have found very useful in my experience. Rule number 1, don't give sedation to agitated asthmatics. All the disasters have happened. Have you ever given sedation to acute asthmatics? Please. Rule number 2, don't be fooled by normal blood gas. A normal blood gas patient might be in stage 3 acute bronchial asthma. There are a gradation of bronchial asthma according to 5 stages by blood gas, arterial blood gas. In stage 3, what is called pseudo-normalization of CO2. In stage 1, it becomes respiratory alkalosis, CO2 goes down. In stage 2, CO2 still goes down. In stage 3, the CO2 gradually becomes normal, which means that the respiratory failure has happened, and you get fooled by it. So, a normal blood gas will tell you that it's time for the patient to be intubated. Rule number 3, look at the patient and look for impending signs of respiratory failure. One of the important things that we see is paradoxical movement of the abdominal wall. If you see that particular sign, patient is a respiratory failure and needs to be intubated. And finally, rule number 4, differential diagnosis, which Dr. Anand really didn't go into details. Think of asthma mimickers. Asthma mimickers, those patients that looks like an acute short of breath, and you may be fooled. There might be acute cardiac failure. There could be acute pulmonary embolism. There could be a patient with acute renal failure with hyperventilation. Or there could be a patient with airway obstruction. So please, remember those points. Regarding management of type 2 respiratory failure, I really don't have to say much because the management of type 2 respiratory failure in acute asthma in ICU setting is essentially the same, except that the COPD patients often have blood gas that can be very confusing. And you really have to differentiate between acute type 2 respiratory failure and chronic type 2 respiratory failure, where the patient really has gone into severe metabolic alkalosis, and you really have to take care of metabolic alkalosis. You really have to take care if you want to help the patient. I want to, I'm sorry to Dr. Rana that I interrupted him, the lecture. Dr. Rana did not mention about non-invasive positive pressure ventilation in management of acute COPD. This has revolutionized management of COPD in ICU. We have many patients now that we do not intubate. We put them on non-invasive ventilation, and ventilation is entirely intubation avoided. So that's something you should remember. I want to congratulate Dr. Zakir Hussain for his nice Bangladeshi experience on non-invasive ventilation in the form of management of sleep apnea. Basically, one important point I want to mention to you is that one should not consider giving non-invasive ventilation that we do in sleep apnea syndrome in patient with acute respiratory failure that requires non-invasive ventilation. The differential point is that a patient with non-invasive ventilation who requires treatment for acute respiratory failure has to cooperate with this management. If he does not cooperate, then this does not work. You must remember it. You should not be using it on a sleeping patient, but on a sleep apnea patient we use them because this is used only, they're using only nose mask. And finally, I want to thank the audience for being so patient, and thank you very much. Thank you.
I request Professor H.M. Nazmullah Hassan to hand over our praise to Professor Abul Kalam Azad to our report here.
Now I hand over the microphone to the report here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start our 6th scientific session.
Working towards completely phasing out of CFCs by January 2012. Keeping this in mind, is this transition of CFC to HFA in inhalers, is it environment friendly? Now the global problem is hole in the ozone layer. Ozone depletion is the problem. There are serious consequences such as increase in ultraviolet radiation causing skin cancer, crop damage, decrease in marine phytoplankton, and all this caused by ozone depleting substance that contain CFCs. Most CFCs are used for commercial and manufacturing purposes like aerosol, air conditioning, refrigeration, foam manufacturing. CFCs are also used as propellants in metered-dose inhalers for asthma and COPD patients. MDI CFC use has always been small. Globally, it is about 1 to 5% of total CFC use. Now the CFC inhalers. What is CFC? CFC is made up of carbon, chlorine and fluorine atoms. 3 common CFCs are CFC11, CFC12 and CFC114. It was originally synthesized in 1890s and substantial use after 1930. And CFC contain chlorine, which is responsible for this ozone depletion. Now CFC-free inhalers. What is it contains? It contains hydrofluoroalkane. Development has led to better MDI, more consistent dose, no tail of dose at end, no need to prime after 14 days, and is made up of carbon, fluorine and hydrogen atom. Common HFAs are HFA-134A and HFA-227. And it contains hydrogen atom which is readily metabolized in the environment, so no ozone depleting effect. Its spray velocity is much less, that is 35 km per hour in comparison to 100 km per hour for ships. And it has got no fear effect and patient may not perceive their medication. Now, most currently MDIs are CFC containing propellants, and CFCs are being phased out globally to protect our Earth's ozone layer as temporary medical exemption to the phase out. And over the next several years, safety MDIs will be gradually replaced by non-CFC alternatives. And why this change? In 1974, Molina and Rowland published hypothesis that certain CFCs were degrading the stratosphere. In 1985, significant data collected concluding that chlorine-containing volatile chemicals degrade the stratospheric ozone. In 1989, UN established Montreal Protocol, an agreement to phase out the CFC. And in 1991, EC regulation banning manufacture of CFCs after 30th June 1997. The CFCs that were listed